NBA, Major League Baseball, pink bats, pink outfits.
Yeah. They certainly did the mothers good. They don't show them justice. Like Jimmy said, the pink bats, cleats, all types of pink highlights in the major leagues. The Orioles were swept by the Kansas City Royals.
Wah, wah.
The Kansas City Royals. Thank you, Eric. Kansas City Royals is like...
Hi, I'm LeVar Burton, and I'm proud to be a book person. How do I choose a book? Sometimes it's the cover, sometimes it's the title. I guess I'm pretty visual. If a book's really impressing me and the writing is really good, I will peek and see what the last...
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
I can get Miss Maurissa to come stop by and do a series with us. Of course, Mama Linda Goss, she won't be coming back. We'll be doing one more show with her actually, but we're trying to get her to come back. But her series, How We Got Over series, we'll be able to find that on my website, theartistexchange.com, BeExposedRadio.com, and thepillcenter.org. For more information on that, you can definitely go to thepillcenter.org and see that replay. But we'll be partnering with a few more artists and community leaders, not just artists, but community leaders, and doing a series of interviews from that point of view. So definitely look forward to that. But without further ado, we got Miss Maurissa here with us, owner of the Living Wealth Center, and she has we've been talking for the last like almost hour now, and really getting a lot of good information. And what I'm learning is I listen a lot more, but I've learned how to input who I am to all my conversations. Today's topic is, if this business, don't take it personal. You're sitting next to two difficult individuals, if you let other people say it. But we've both been talking, and of course Ms. Maurissa has much more experience in this area than I do, but being difficult is a part of your growth. And sometimes you gotta fight back a little bit and get uncomfortable with people. And people will often be uncomfortable with you when you're following your path. So, without further ado, Miss Maurissa.
Hey, good evening. Good evening.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background before we get into...
My background. My background in terms of my educational background, my work background. Well, I am a non-traditional person. Like, I came through this journey. I didn't take the traditional route to college, so... I think I went back to school when I was 27 years old. I got my bachelor's waived, and I went into a Master's of Human Services program with a emphasis on change management and cultural competency at Lincoln University. And I wrote my thesis, my change project was looking at cultural competency in organization, systems, and community.
And that is more so just what's going wrong in terms of the community.
What cultural competency?
Right.
What that is, a cultural competency really kind of looks at, you know, how we show up, like how we show up in our work, and, you know, our...
So internal.
You're right, and is our operating values in sync with the people that we're working with. So if we don't understand the cultural framework of a community that we're working with, then we're doing more harm than good. And often in the helping professions, in the helping services and nonprofits, you know, sometimes we're going in, you know, based on a model or a value system that is antithetical to the community that we're serving.
I.e. some white people in the room and say, this is what is going to happen, and then they make these people and hire these people without knowing who they're
right. And so I got recruited to work on a state system change project at the University of Maryland at College Park. And I was working in a system with the the Washington, D.C. Department of Housing and Community Development under the leadership of Marion Barry at the time. And I don't know if many of our listeners remember, you know, Mayor for Life, the amazing Marion Barry. Marion Barry had some social health issues and some disabilities, if you will, but he was for the people, let me tell you.
I have never heard such a prolific description. One of Marion Barry.
All right, somebody getting caught smoking crack on national TV, right? Yeah.
That
So.
was Professor. She good.
So I went to work on this state systems change project, and I really learned a lot about working in organizations and systems, like in the government systems and the nonprofit sector and city government. And at the time, I was interviewing folks that worked for DC government, and these folks were getting ready to be laid off. And I was thinking to myself when I was interviewing these folks that had been working in those positions longer than I was old at the time. And I was thinking, you know, you can get laid off and no one is going to hire you because they were not prepared. So, you know, because it wasn't the norm of DC government, Department of Health and Human Services, to provide training and technical assistance to their employees, right? And the people, you know.
They out there going out the door.
Right. Well, they didn't know they was going out the door. You know what I mean? They didn't know they was getting ready to get laid off. But it was just a part of the culture. Like, we don't go to training. We don't need training. And so, you know, these folks didn't go and update their skills and their capacity. And so, you know, I always say to people when I'm doing coaching, at the end of the day, your resume is about you. No one, when you go to a job interview, is going to say to you, hey, did your job provide training for you? Like, it just does not come up in a job interview. Has it ever come up to you? Right. So we got to understand that our professional development, our, you know, continue to work on our craft, whatever that may be, right? That's on us.
It has to come from within because nobody's nobody's investing in their employees like that anymore.
Well, some organizations or companies do that, you know, that have those values and that have those resources. But at the end of the day, it's on us, right? So I say that to say that was a very powerful experience watching, you know, people who were at the time living in expensive mortgage payments and driving around expensive car notes that, you know, look, you have relied on your good government job all these years and it's getting ready to, you know, be pulled. The rug is getting ready to be pulled out. So now what? And so I, you know, spent some time at the University of Maryland doing, you know, management consulting.
Tell these people that.
Yes. It was so uncomfortable and I was so young at it. You know, I was very young. I was like, you know, 28, 29, 30 doing this work. And I was, you know, it was very scary, but it was change agency work. Like, let's be clear. Being a change agent is not a feel-good job. I mean, if you look at, you know, who we see as the change agents of our generation and past, right? You know, none of those individuals that we can call out, ancestors or not, you know, it's not a feel-good job. Yeah, they were never liked. So it goes back to the, you know, the comment about being difficult. And, you know, we're talking here about it's just business. It's just, you know, don't take it personal. And one of the things that I think that in my work, in my journey that I've learned is the 4 agreements. There's a book by Miguel Ruiz. I'm sure many of your listeners have probably read that book. But it talks about the 4 agreements. One of the agreements, you know, ethos to live by. And one of those agreements is take nothing personal. What someone does or does not do has nothing to do with me. Now, it's a very difficult concept.
When it's directed at
Yes, exactly. And I say that, you know, the other thing that I think that I've learned the most in this work is that I've had to stretch my emotional intelligence, you know, to recognize where my triggers are and my boundaries and to recognize where other people are, right? And so being emotionally intelligent is a critical piece of business of acumen, if you will. You know, being emotionally intelligent. So and you know, in my work, you know, doing consulting, and you know, I've worked for a university. I've been a adjunct professor recently for the University of Baltimore, where I teach nonprofit management. You know, I always tell people that, you know, there is, first of all, emotions and business really don't intersect well. Often, right? But it's not to say that emotions aren't present. You know, we are emotional beings, and so we have to. Be a factor, but it can't be right, exactly, right. And so feelings aren't facts, right? So feelings aren't facts, and so you know, that's what I try to keep in mind when I am, you know, being difficult, right? When I'm being difficult, a lot of times I think people read it as difficult. I see it as we have boundaries and we have systems in place, and now they don't work unless you work them.
So let's pull out that word. If I get my pastor on, let's extract that word boundaries. Has it or was it ever difficult for you setting boundaries?
Yes, absolutely. So that's how I've learned some things, and you know, boundaries, setting. The lack of boundaries have created personnel and policies and procedure manuals. Right?
Right. And because often we don't, boundaries are normally an afterthought, and we normally realize they need to be set because something has happened. But when you meet people who already have theirs intact, it's hard to really like maneuver, because like, how do I, and then you have to just be direct back, because it's hard to really maneuver around somebody who has set boundaries. And boundaries aren't necessarily to keep you out, it's to keep this thing even and keep us going. But often we look at boundaries different. How do you teach boundaries? Because that's something that
I have to set them to teach them.
Okay.
Right, I have to set them, and I have a difficult time with that. I'm a giver by nature. You know, I come from that, you know, that value system that, you know, my parents or, you know, mother taught to be of service, to be of service to others, right? And so, right, and so with that, you know, what happens is that your whole operating, you're geared with, how can I help? Given, how can I help you? And I was just thinking about a conversation we were having. You were reminiscing about a conversation you were having with me years ago, which I don't even recall. I'm like, did I say that?
But it's setting boundaries it's healthy, but you have to use the boundaries that you set as a tool and not as a weapon. My boundaries aren't set to keep you out. It's to help me keep control over my portion of this relationship, whether it be business or personal, whatever. It's very healthy for us to set boundaries, because when we don't, we lose.
And so in business, I have been known to not have boundaries around the business of the living well. So, you know, our revenue generating line of business has been space rental. So at the end of the day, I don't care what we're doing at the living well, we are selling space, right? And so what that means is when you are selling space, you have to be a little bit over meticulous about what things are, right? And so,
flexibility could sometimes get you in trouble.
Exactly, right? And so when we have, you know, strategic norms around, you know, what is the criteria for having what we call competent space, right?
Can you explain that?
Competent space. So this term that I've been using, competent space, and I think people are starting to hear it, is that, you know, competent space, first of all, it's safe space. You know, for many of us, and for those who look like us, there's not many places that we can go that we're safe. You know, we're safe in that we can be who we are, you know, authentically who we are, right? Without it being judged, right? Without it, you know, being restricted or anything. So it has to be safe, right? It has to be accessible, right? Meaning it has to be able to, people have to be able to afford to be able to access the space, you know, and not have to jump through the hoops that many of us are not prepared to jump through, right? So it has to be accessible. It has to be transformable, right? Because, you know, you may need the space for a workshop, and, you know, somebody else may need it for a yoga class or a dance class or for a baby shower, right? So that space needs to be transformable, right? It needs to be, again, it needs to be a sacred space that people understand that we all have personal accountability for the space, even though the space is maybe owned and operated. If the community is sharing the space, that we have to, you know, take ownership in what that is, right?
Now, do you have those same principles when, say, you have your own, what do we call it, your own events versus rental events? Is it the same?
In what way do you mean?
In terms of like setting boundaries, the same, what did you call it? Is it the same principle? Do you go after your events regardless of whether they're your events versus?
Yes, I feel like we try to set the same standard. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're coming in and doing something, right? We say that if you're hosting an event at the Living Well, that we ask that you treat the guests that come for your event as honored house guests, right? We ask that you extend that value.
Because ultimately, if they did a bad experience, it was at the Living Well.
Yeah, it was at the Living Well. They're not going to be like, oh, it was Nate's event at the Living Well that I had a bad experience. They're going to say they have a bad experience at the Living Well. Absolutely.
And most of us in business, whether we own the space or we renting it, we often don't look at it that way. And I've recently, in the last couple of years, I've started to look at, say, even though we got 12 shows here, we all have to look at this space the same way. And I was always taught to, any job you at, you're supposed to work that job as if you're the owner.
Absolutely.
You still have to have that, like, you're under the fire at all times. And not in a necessarily bad way, but it ends up somebody, you know, tripped and fell because of one of the people at the event did something they weren't supposed to do. But they look at the Living Well Center as the person who caused that injury versus
exactly.
bad, you know, internal management.
Exactly. That's why we always say, you know, when your guests come in, we have, you know, the business is people need to sign in. It's a liability waiver. You know what I mean? It's not only a liability waiver if someone gets hurt, but it's also a media liability waiver. You know, we are always, you know, clicking pictures, and, you know, that's the Living Well way. You come to Living Well, you know, we've got canon of photography, and that's a part of our platform. We have some of the most amazing photographers and media people that have, you know, they shoot there, you know, they cover our events, you know, etc. So we want to make sure that we are operating in a business manner, right? So those sign-in sheets, you know, tell us who we're seeing. That's a part of our protocol, right? It's a liability waiver. It's a part of business, and it's important to make sure when you are doing business that you have business norms, right? So whatever culture that the organization creates organically, it's going to help or hinder your strategy moving forward.
I've seen a lot of hindrance happen when you don't have norms, and it hurts. Again, you have to have the best intention, the best ideas, but if you haven't structured it in a way where people come in, like, it's this, my mother used to always say, keep your room clean, because your friend will come here and feel like they can just toss things around and throw trash if you haven't set that standard of, no, not only are these my rules, but I have to follow them as well. So that's why I asked, you know, your regular string of events that you put on in terms of you presenting and producing versus the venue, because sometimes when people come in, there's a different expectation from them versus what your standards are.
Well, we hope that we, you know, have the same standards, whether it's an event that we're, you know, producing or whether we're renting the space to produce.
Well, it's on their website. So don't go to the Living Well and don't think you didn't know, because it's on the website what they expect. I'm participating in their holiday handmade event, and I was impressed, but I was also like, this is a lot. But at the same time, as a business owner, you have rules. and this was a vending event, and even though I'm paying my money to be a part of it, these are the expectations that I am being presented with. Not that I am giving to you, but these are the things that I'm being presented with. And I had no reason, but I can tell that some people probably look at that and like, no, I'm not doing all that. But just, I'm going to go to the side a little bit, but I want you to plug the event. We're about to take a quick commercial break, but I want you to plug the event.
Handmade Holiday. This is our 10th year. It's really a community day party. It's a meetup. It is a artisan's bazaar. It's, you know, we're going to have drumming, dancing, music, singing. It is just it's a meetup. You know, everyone comes to Handmade Holiday. You know, it's always the Sunday before Christmas, and you see people hugging. You know, you're buying unique crafts. You're buying unique jewelry, art. It's made by our community, and it's very important to support events such as Handmade Holidays, because we are creating what we call social and economic vibrancy. And so it is this Sunday, December the 23rd, from 12 to 6. We're right across the street from, if you are in Baltimore City, you know where the Farmers Market is. Right. We are located directly across the street from Farmers Market at 235 Holiday Street. We will be there from 12 to 6. We'll have information sessions, demo. The Terra Cafe is going to be selling some amazing fish wraps, and you know, we have amazing jewelry artists and dancers, etc. So yeah, Nate will be in the house. So please stop by. You know, tell a friend. Let us know that you come. If you've come to the Living Well in the past, this is our reunion edition. So, right, if you have been to the Living Well in the past, you know, tag us. You know, say something about us that you know that you enjoyed experiencing at the Living Well. The flyers on our radio show page, so definitely take the flyers, share it out, come out to the event. Don't just share it. Actually come down. It's on a Sunday. It's the last day of the farmers market, so you can get your produce, put them in the car. It's gonna be chilly outside. They're gonna be good, and come on in to the handmade artisan market. But we're gonna take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back with Miss Maurissa. When we return, don't go anywhere.
Join the Just a Bit Outside crew every Monday, 8 to 10 p.m. on BeExposedRadio.com.
You wanna start off?
I think I'll get it out of the way on a who's not.
Okay, do it.
The Orioles.
Right.
They got swept by the Royals. They lost 4 in a row, and the last 5 games have all been decided by 1 run. The game before, or the last game that they lost before the Royals was the Nationals, and it was Weeders, of course, won with a home run.
Hit the home run.
Right. They were going into that National series. It seemed like they were doing so well, and they just crapped out. They got that game postponed, so who knows when they're going to replay that or play that game. That's my first not for the night.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and weigh in on my who's not, and I'm going to talk about the San Diego Padres.
The Padres. That's okay. You just took my answer.
They're in last place in the NL West. They've lost 8 of their last 10. Their run differential is a negative 65, which is just horrible. So when you have well, let me just talk about run differential a little bit. It's kind of like the how
much you're winning or losing your games by, pretty much.
Yeah. Okay. It's like the margin of victory, kind of.
Right.
So when you're in a negative number, that means that then
your average game you're losing
by a whole lot.
Right.
I mean, a number like negative 65, this early in the season is pretty rough.
That's horrible.
And the pitching numbers pretty much support this stat right here. I mean, the team ERA is 4.70, which is 26th in the league. They have 126 walks allowed. They acquired Jared Weaver in the offseason, and he really has not panned out. He's off to one of the worst starts in any of the pitchers in 2017. He's 0-4 with a 6.05 ERA. In May alone, he already has 12 earned runs. 12
Sure.
earned runs
Right.
in May. And, you know, another one of their pitchers, Clayton Richard, he's 2-4 with a 4.34 ERA. And, you know, in May, he has 6 earned runs and 12 innings pitched. So they're not pitching well. And on top of that, they're also not batting well.
Right. But it kind of sucks because Manuel Margot is doing pretty good. His the past few at bats, his last.
Join the Just a Bit Outside crew every Monday 8 to 10 p.m. on BeExposedRadio.com.
The Artist Exchange Radio Show every Friday 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. every Saturday 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. Real artist, real talk, real live on BeExposedRadio.com.
I was meeting with a friend yesterday, and I've gotten to the point where don't ask me a question because the truth is going to come out. And
exactly.
Just don't do it.
If you ain't looking for the truth, don't come to me.
Don't do it because I can't hold my tongue. And she wants to be this stylist, boutique, but you're not doing anything in that nature, and I can't take you seriously if you're not doing those things. And I understood why people didn't take me seriously because I found myself in somebody else's lane. I was good at what I was doing and what I wanted to be, but I wasn't doing it for me. So how can I ask you to take me seriously if I'm living in somebody else's shoes?
And nobody can do what you do, and I think that that's a big problem that people face now. Like, you see what somebody else is doing and you want to do that when that's not your lane.
That's not your lane.
That's not what you're supposed to be doing.
But it's popular.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
See how fast they can develop?
Where did this come from?
And the rest of our
And they were, and look, and that was zoned industrial.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so they were able to change the zoning, rezone
Well, you
it.
can pay for that. You
But
can
I'm
pay
just
for
saying,
legislation real easy.
right, but you understand what I'm saying. Like, I was like,
like that.
and then they built up apartments literally right across the street from me. I was like, damn, well, what is... Baltimore is having, it's been having a renaissance for some years now. And coming from the D.C. area, I
that
saw...
was kind of ahead of
Yes, right. So I saw gentrification happen in D.C. I saw that the dollar homes that Barry was selling are $1 million now. Like, I saw D.C. go from Chocolate City to, like...
But I just learned that whole dollar program was a gimmick, too, because you still had to have a certain amount of money to even buy the dollar house. But
you had to have some threshold criteria, but...
You had, but people who lived in that community.
No, but I'm saying what happened was you had to have the money to rehab them because they were, they were blighted houses like we have blighted houses, and so that area they're $1 million homes now, So
be back home. Welcome back to the Artist Exchange Radio Show here live. Radio.com. This is the last show for the season. I keep saying year. Season year is kind of interchangeable, but you'll see a season next year. So I'm going to come in the spring, I'm going to do a little in the summer, and go away, take a break, and then come back in the fall and the winter. For 5 years, I've been going from January to December. Wow. And I've been meeting I just met Ern Hinkle, and he said, take a break. Sometimes we got to rejuvenate ourselves. Today's topic is, it's just business. It's not personal. And I think Black people are passionate people, so we feel a lot. So it's always personal. So it's not necessarily you may be having a bad day or this is your business, but we take things personal. What training are you then giving to the individuals that are now under that Living Well umbrella? Because you have a number of different programming that goes.
So I don't know if it's so much training as maybe coaching or feedback, right? One of the things that I always say that we have a tendency to make up stuff. So I call it our MUS, our made up stuff, or our made up
programming.
Our made up. Right, so we get a little data from here and a little information. Somebody told me something here, and I got, I made up something I see on social media, and we make it up. And then we start.
We don't want to put in the free work, internships, education to learn the system. And
well, we also in our head is what I'm talking about in terms of how we make up stuff in our head, and then we impose what we made up without even checking in on the person to see if it's real, right? So we get a little information from this person, and we see something, you know, on social media, and we put that together, and that means this, and I done made it up. And the crazy thing about us as human beings is that we will impose our made up shit on somebody else. Like, you know, why you know why I'm mad, or you know what you was trying to do. No, you made that up. Yeah. And so one of the things in business,
you are mad in your head, and you
right?
Express that to me, the
right?
You're mad at.
Yeah, exactly. But we don't. We don't. We are a community of people that are conflict avoidants, right? And so, and also too, we also
communication void.
Yeah, communication void, right? And so I think that is so important for us, you know, when you say what, you know, have I taught, or, you know, what we do with one another is, first of all, show up with in integrity. Show up in integrity. When you show up in integrity, you know.
Maybe we need a definition of integrity. Maybe a definition.
Well, I always say to my teenager is doing the right thing even when no one is looking. That's, you know, that's just the basic definition of integrity. Is that right, to do the right thing? Like, and so what is the right thing? The right thing sometimes can be subjective, right? Depend on what your knowledge base is. You know, sometimes what I found, because I come out the business world, and so there are things that are just standard business protocol. Well, if you've never worked in a business scenario, a situation, and most of your work has been doing, you know, very independent, freewheeling, you know, maybe artistic or creative, or, you know what I mean?
Made up.
You know, whatever that is, and you've never worked in a business system, you know, you don't know what's right. Right? You know, sometimes right is subjective. And then you have to remember that, right? And so sometimes when people do things that you feel like maybe that person is not operating in integrity, sometimes they don't know. Right? And also, right. And then also too, it goes back to emotional intelligence, because when people, sometimes we make decisions not based off of, you know, what's in the best interest of the whole. Sometimes we make decisions based on our emotionality about something, right? And so that is just the, you know, the way it is. And so sometimes I think that, you know, it's kind of important to be able to look at things from the perspective of, you know, what is not emotional. And I just was thinking about a sister friend of mine. We were talking about how, you know, if you have something emotional happen, you know, you break up with your boyfriend or something happens where you're all emotional, like, she's not the person to call. She's the person to call when you need to do problem solving, because she's not going to be all mushy, and she's going to be like, but you knew that. When you made the decision, right. Exactly.
I'm gonna give you advice and you will be mad at me, but I'm the person you should call once you're ready to make it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not, you know, so we always say she's not the person to call when you need to be going, girl, I can't believe, and like, right, exactly, right. And so sometimes, you know,
and that's okay.
Right. One of the most amazing things about working with so many very profound thought leaders and change makers is that, you know, we have the saying, we say, steel sharpens steel. So you can't be thin-skinned, right? You can't be, you know, oh, she said this because of, you know, that. You know, you have to look at what thinking style you use. There's this thing that we use when we do sometimes team building, is how people look at their thinking style. Do they see things, you know, pessimistic? Are they the pessimist? Are they the optimist? Are they creative, right? Are they, I'm the person who, I'm very yellow, I yield because I'm thinking about a whole, like, you may be looking at this one situation, I'm looking at the legal implications, I'm looking at the, you know what I mean? Like I'm looking at a whole bunch of stuff, not just that one thing. And so it's important when we're working with each other in community, you know, using what I call open systems, we need to understand that we bring a specific style to the table, right? And other people do as well.
But to input a little bit, can you speak to management or to owners who are seeing the bigger picture and they've hired somebody to do this, but I'm upset with you because you don't realize what this piece is to all of this in terms of communication? And can you speak to that leader versus the employee or the other side.
So what would you want me to speak to them, to say? What do you want?
How to effectively communicate that and often realize,
as a visionary,
this ain't my problem. You hired me to do this. Now I need to understand who I am in comparison to the other people you hired and even to the bigger vision of this company. But
a leader really should have the ability to really look at his or her strengths and challenges, right? And so, you know, at the Living Well, you know, for me, I work with people that, you know, we are very, you know, sometimes I understand what my strengths and challenges are, right? So I'm a giver. Like, I am the giver. I'm the, you know, you can call me with a sob story about the space and I'm going to see what I can do, right? Where you kind of, in Kenya, you know, they'll call me up and they'll be like, so, do you need to call that person back or should we call that person back, right? And so, you know, having that done to me a couple times, it really, like when I'm getting ready to, okay, we've agreed upon this thing that we're not doing anymore, right? You have to stop it. So I have to make sure that I have created an environment that people are comfortable giving me that feedback and checking me. So the Living Well, we use a shared leadership model, right? Our hierarchy is flattened. So I don't have that, you know, that kind of is my boss. You kind of is our director of operations. And she, like, for real, like, kind of will call me and go, I didn't see this. Like, you were supposed to. I was like, oh yeah, right, right, I got it. So I think that it's important for owners, for managers, for those bosses, because people like to use that term. I'm a boss, right? For me, being a boss is that I'm gonna have to get into, you know, check out the bathroom before the event and make sure it's clean and we have, you know, the right amount of toilet paper, right? That's what the boss is. That is, you know, the boss is.
Even if you're checking in on the person who's supposed to do that and going down that checklist, it's not just.
Well, we don't at the Living Well. We don't do like assign. You know, you do it all.
Okay.
Like that's,
I like that.
you know what I mean. You do it all. Like it's not like I ain't doing that. Like. Oh, yeah, you're doing it all. Right. And having the sense of what a job is, right? And, you know, some people have jobs. I mean, you can't mandate sensitivity. You can't mandate ingenuity. You can't mandate, you know, confidence and competence, right? And a commitment to do something. That's not something you can mandate. Right, you have got to, you know, create a environment for people that they want to do it, that you understand what they value, and they know that you value them. Right, you've got to be able to, you know, create that exchange.
Do you now? One of the things that like that I always say to people, I don't believe in expectations because I can't. The way I was raised or the way I think, I can't put that on you. I can have standards, and I can say whether or not I'm going to take that or I'm not going to take that. But do you agree that we can't, like you said, impose, but I can't expect for this person to do that? Whether I'm paying them or not, whether it's a friendship or whatever, I can't expect for people to have X, Y, Z. Because I should have checked that off in the hiring process or in choosing to partner or work with you.
So we've got to... you know, be willing to be clear about what the task is and how we're going to approach the task, right? The other thing that I say is very important, that everybody has to feel included, right? And so inclusion is huge, you know, when you are, you know, trying to work to get things done, you know, collaboratively. Like people, you know, there's a difference between being included and feeling included. Right. When people feel that they are included, they are going to, you know, go beyond, you know, the low-hanging, what I call the low-hanging fruit.
Right. Has it been difficult for you to, or not difficult, but how has it been now? The Living Well is what it is now. It's still growing, it's still maturing, and we don't know where it's going to pop off next. So you move to this new space and your team is developing. talk to us about some of the programming that happens there.
Okay, so our motto is that we're healing the soul of the city. And so we really are working around what we know as social determinants of health. And so many of the platform partners that we have are, you know, on the ground doing that work. And so when we talk about programming, you know, we really want to do things. Well, first of all, let me say our rubric is soulful expression, conscious expansion, and optimal wellness. That's our rubric, right? And so what are, you know, how do we use soulful expression as a line of business, right? So that would be whether it be dance or drum or talk backs that we do or circles, right? Soulful expression, we do singing circles with Leah Gilmore with Be More Community Sings. Conscious expansion. So right now we're partnering with the Black Yoga Teachers Alliance that are now hubbed here in Baltimore, where we're going to be creating some what we call chat and choose or skill shares. The yoga industry is a $40 billion business, and it's important that we have space and create space to prepare Black mindfulness and healing practitioners to take a share of that market. So we're, you know, having that coming up, a chat and chew with Bida. Also, we're partnering with an amazing.
Is that part of the Sunday yoga that you do?
Yes,
Okay.
And so the other thing that we're doing around mindfulness is that we're working with Spiritual Essence Yoga studio in Upper Marlboro. We are an affiliate to them now, so we're an affiliate Yoga Alliance yoga studio, and we are getting ready to launch a cohort in May doing a 200-hour yoga teacher training, so we're very excited about that. If you are interested in yoga teacher training, please email us at admin, ADMIN, at livewellbemore.com. So that's coming up, right? So that's in our conscious expansion line of business. In optimal wellness, we are partnering with the American Beverage Association that is going to sponsor a 5-8-week series yoga program starting in January, so we're very excited about that. Free yoga will be on Saturday and Sundays, right? So that is just some of the programming that we have coming up. We, again, are an incubation space. If you have a platform of a solution for a community health problem, we would love, you know, to work with you to make sure that you have the tools that you need, whether it be, you know, packaging your product or services, or really having access to thought capital and thought leadership in the city.
So if I have this idea, what should I have prepared before I send that first email?
Well, you're going to just say, let's talk, right? Because sometimes, you know, we think that it needs to be, you know, something elegant, right, and written up. And, you know, sometimes people can't get started because that's a barrier for them. We say, let's just start with the idea, like when we first met, right? So you want to share that? So that is the answer to your question.
Right, right. So the first year that I had the radio show, I reached out to the Living Well, Miss Maurissa, because a lot of my friends have been using this space for various projects. Shout out to the married, now newly wed, Miss Keita. She was using it for her Zumba classes, and I reached out to her because I wanted this radio show to be something different. And a lot of our support was coming from outside of the state, and I wanted to connect it to the community. And I wanted to be inside of the community, not just a mover and a shaker, somebody that's a culture roacher. So I reached out and I wanted to use the space to do an event. And I had experiences with an event, and she liked that. And you had actually came to one of my events before, and I wanted to do those things. I had the end result, but I didn't have the strategy or the roadmap. And she simply said to me, well, figure out what it is that you want to do and call me back. So I felt like initially you were blowing me off, but in me thinking about it and me having experience now, come to me with your plan.
Right.
We can you know, dream over our outcome. We can, you know, sit here and talk over the strategy, but have a plan.
Right.
You know, and that was useful to me. And I made the mistake a couple more times. You know, you still have to learn, but But it makes sense to me because now, even if it's not written out, I know what I want beyond the end result.
It starts with a conversation. It just starts with a conversation.
I love doing that now. Let's talk and see what we can do together. Because you never know. We sit down and talk about this and something totally different comes out of the conversation.
Exactly.
So that's my intentions and expectations are clearly defined now.
Right, so I start with listening. I just start with listening, right? So I don't go into, you know, any initial conversation with any agenda.
Is that to find your place in that conversation, or?
Right, to figure out, you know, where are the connectors, right? And how we can be of service. They're living well.
So on that note, we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back with the awesome Miss Maurissa. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here on the Artist Exchange Radio Show, only on BigStoryRadio.com.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
Green light. Hey girl, school zone. I'm getting hungry. Car changing lanes. You want to meet me for pizza? Stop sign. Intersection clear. Yeah, street. Pizza sounds good. Ballin' Street? Girlin' Street!
It's hard to concentrate on two things at once, like texting and driving. Stop the text, stop the wrecks. How will you stop texting and driving? Tell us at stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Thought you was gonna have my money today.
Man, it is what it is.
Then last week you told me your wife was cooking.
Man, it is what it is.
Then again, I don't think I want your wife cooking because you don't like it.
Well, it is what it is.
This Fly T Miles, also known as Tyree Miles, and Mr. Miles, the writer.
Hip Hop K. Check us out every Friday on Be Exposed Radio. It is what it is. 9/11.
Are they ready to? I know they're not ready to accept it, but yeah, exactly. That's my whole thing. Like, how many of them are really ready to think about it like that?
None.
You know, like
I think the problem is
like
even I don't even know how we got here, but it's inbred. You're not born to hate people. You're not born to distinguish between black and white and Asian and Hispanic. That's something that you're taught. You're taught. Point blank, period.
Straight up.
My daughter came home and told
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
Realizing my dollars are in there.
You know, I think it's very interesting. You know, I'm not the, you know, I'm not a digital native, so to speak. And there's this whole thing about
I'm trying to get out of it.
How social media famous we are, how many followers we have. And so it's so funny. I have. I'm not very active on Instagram. You know, I have a Facebook following, and I do enjoy Facebook, but I'm not like on Facebook, right? And I see that there's this, you know, thing of people like to see how many followers they have, like, and they're always, you know, in the media, the social media spotlight. And you know, I think that that's great, you know, for some, and sometimes I just, you know, try to make sure for myself that there's a balance, right? That there is, you know, it's fun, it's engaging, you take a look and you can, you know, express yourself. But it is time consuming, it's a time robber.
Because it has to go like this.
It is. I think that sometimes it can be toxic. I feel like a lot of times people use social media as a platform to be very passive aggressive and be very mean spirited, right? But also too, it can be very uplifting and informational, and it can also be used as a connector. I think that, you know, where you are in terms of your your maturity, like you were saying, that sometimes people use this radio platform to to pop off as stars, but sometimes people use it as a tool, as an informational tool and vehicle.
And it has to. You have to have not only that balance, but you have to have that understanding that this is what these things are doing. We now live in a generation where I don't feel it necessary to register my business because I can just name a page on Facebook this and I have a business. But not connecting that with, you're not giving anything to your community because you're not a legitimate business. And you're spending money, yeah, but you're not giving anything to your community in terms of things. So schools are being shut down. This is not being provided. Your streets are looking like this because you're not providing back. So I just look at things, you have to have that balance. Social media is great, but if you overindulge in anything, it's never going to be...
any strength overdone is a weakness.
Yeah, and it helps you. So you have all these likes, all these followers. Now what? Did that change your bank account? Did it change how you see yourself?
I have some of the Living Well family members. I don't really accept friend requests. Half the people, I don't know them.
Right.
And I was like, people...
You don't. She Siri, you're correct. She don't.
So sometimes, people, I say to people, I don't understand why people are friending me or liking me. I don't know them. I don't like.
And they may have just been somebody who came to the venue.
But like, I don't have that exciting life. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? I don't know what people are.
You don't see it, but they see the value and social connection value that you have. And that's all it is. They saw you in a platform. They know you are the operator, owning operator of this facility that gets all this buzz, and I want to be a part of that. I want to know what your life is. And that's all it is. They see you as this thing. And unfortunately, Maurissa has gotten comfortable with this curtain life.
Yeah,
and now the whiz has to be seen. And we realize you just a magician.
Right. Nate called me out earlier about curtain life, because he said, early on in the history of the development of the Living Well, the Living Well was this place that no one knew, like, who ran it.
It just was on Charles Street. And
it just popped up, right, out of nowhere, and all of a sudden it was the place to be, right? So.
And they were having major events in this one room. And I was like, how is this place doing this? And it was going, and I'll be walking back from the market, and there's another event. One night it's drums, the next night is a hip hop show, the next night I see Olu and this person in there with their babies doing yoga, and it was a pop-up shop this Saturday midday. So it was happening, and anybody, like, they take notice.
Right. So it was a canopy, but I always felt like it was really about the, we're sharing space. We're operating in what I call the experience economy. So, we're operating. The Living Well is more than a brick and mortar. It's an experience. People will walk in and be like, oh, people always say to us, this place has such great energy, right? And so I love to hear that, because what's resonating is our understanding that it's about your experience. You can go to hub spaces around the city, right? And you may have a great experience in terms of, this is the space that's getting all the energy, right? But what is it feeding your soul?
Right.
Is it feeding your soul?
Are you coming back for other things?
Yes,
Are you,
exactly. And do you feel a part of? One of the things I see happen at the Living Well space, and I always say to people, you can tell who's on board with us, who sees themselves as a part of our family, a part of our community, is after the event, who stays to help clean up. That is a sure sign.
So we're going to leave on that note. We're going to come back and we're going to talk more about the upcoming handmade event. And we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. The Artist Exchange Radio Show with Miss Maurissa. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. I like those types.
I'm LeVar Burton, and I'm proud to be a book person. How do I choose a book? Sometimes it's the cover, sometimes it's the title. I guess I'm pretty visual. If a book's really impressing me and the writing is really good, I will peek and see what the last paragraph is, because the endings of books should rock you. I am a book person, and if you're a book person too, read to a child and spark a lifetime of ambition. Join me at bookpeopleunite.org, because reading is fundamental. A public service announcement brought to you by Reading is Fundamental, Library of Congress, and the Ad Council.
Green light. Hey girl, school zone. I'm getting hungry. Car changing lanes. You want to meet me for pizza? Stop sign. Intersection clear. Yeah, street. Pizza sounds good. Ballin Street? Girlin Street!
It's hard to concentrate on two things at once, like texting and driving. Stop the text, stop the wrecks. How will you stop texting and driving? Tell us at stoptextstopwrecks.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Join the club that gives you stuff.
Hey, thanks!
Radio Loyalty.
Here's how it works.
Just click on the Radio Loyalty banner right now and sign up. Then, you keep on listening like you already do. But now you earn points. Those points add up, and you can trade them in for stuff in the Radio Loyalty store. Earn more points by sharing your station with friends on Facebook and Twitter, answering surveys, and by using the apps in the New Players App Store. Pretty simple, right?
Radio Loyalty.
Click that banner to join now.
So, Jacqueline.
Yes, Mom?
I wanted to talk to you about something, and... Oh, wait. Hold on. I just got a text. Oh, there's another one. Wow. Busy me. So, anyway...
Oh, wait, Mom. I just got a message. My friends keep commenting on my comment. Oh, there's another one. So many comments on my comment.
Oh, I can't wait to watch TV tonight. Playoffs!
Hey, guys, check out my new video game. Pew, pew. Wait, Mom, what? Huh?
What? Hold
What'd
on.
you say? Wait a second, what?
This weekend, unplug. Take your family to the forest. There's nothing in the world like experiencing nature firsthand. Trees, paths, bluebirds, streams. Getting closer to nature can get you closer to your family. To find the forest nearest you, go to discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
You use Tearless Baby Shampoo because it's gentle on your baby's eyes. You make sure his toys don't have any sharp edges. You always test the bathwater to make sure it's not too hot. You taught her what to do when the smoke alarm goes off. You make sure she wears a helmet when she...
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
I was very much grounded in community, right? You know, we had, Reflection Eternal and Sankofa and Terra Cafe and St. Mary's and Grindhouse. And, you know what I mean? So on and on and on. That was what we call Black Wall Street.
It was.
Definitely. So yes, I miss, being able to run around the corner or something happens and I'm not there. Being able to call Terrence Dixon and say, hey, such and such is going on, or Sundiata and Duella at
Reflections.
Eternal. Just feeling that sense of community that we got each other, we had each other's back, right? So now we're downtown, and it's a very different vibe. It's a very, very different feel. We share space now where we were in our own, in our own box, if so to speak.
Right.
But so there's some pros and cons. We have what I call creative collisions because we're in the building where there's a lot of creative capital over there in terms of the television station that we're joined to, right? And then we're downtown in City Hall, next to City Hall too. So we get those connections. We have neighbors that don't happen to have walls. Just kind of plug in the Terra Cafe. They have a program called Neighbors Without Walls. So we just come together in a different space and multiple spaces. Right? So Handmade Holiday is, I think, the antithesis of what we're looking for in terms of how we quantify social and economic vibrancy. It's important for us to be not only economically savvy and grounded, but we need to be socially grounded.
Grounded but connected.
As well, right? And so those social connections are important for our overall health, our personal health, in terms of our community health, right? And so if something is going on with you and you are connected with the community, people will know that. Like if you usually come to a class.
Keep going.
If you usually come to a class and, we, have created community with you coming to a class, and if you don't show up, then we know that there's something wrong. But you've got to be a part of the community to be able to be helped, right? Or to be supported.
So, like the handmade event, the family reunion, if you will.
Yes.
Are there other opportunities throughout the year for that type of connection with the community that you all as the Living Well produce? Are there other events
so
like that?
We will organically come up with what we want to do and what that looks like, right?
But they're not like, for the spring we're going to do this.
Right, no, we're more organic in that way. So last year, was it this year? When did Black Panther come out?
It was last year.
It was last year, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think it was this year. It was this year.
It was this?
The beginning of this year. I think so.
I think it was the beginning.
It may be the beginning or end
Black
of
Panther
last
came
year.
out. I feel like it's been out. So we had, in connection with ICBC, the Intentional Community Building Collaborative, we did the Black Panther Party, which was amazing, right? 300 people came out. And
the Black Film Festival,
Yes, exactly. So it is, one of the things about the Living Well that makes us very unique is that we respond to what the community wants to do. It's not about us so much sponsoring
like a season of events. But,
right, exactly. That we support those events. And so it was, I don't know if you know Brother Devlin Waddell of Not You Vintage. He did a evening with the curator. Yes. Had a very successful event. Devlin is certainly a member of the Living Well family. So, he decided that he wanted to do an expose about his life, right? And to talk a little bit about, how he operates in mental wellness, oftentimes, and being an artist and a creator.
That balance.
Right, and so we were able to support that, right? And so that was a event that was co-hosted. Last Sunday, we co-hosted a holiday celebration with the Black Yoga Teachers Alliance. And so we are doing things, but we always want to work in partnership, right? And so it's important for us to think about that. Like, what does the community need support with space, with competent space?
So I know a lot of your partnerships start with a meeting. Let's sit down and talk. But what are some of the needs that you want, not needs, but what are some of the things that you would want us to come to you as a community, to your space? Not necessarily the preparation, but solutions.
We're thinking about, one of the I think, an amazing example of community-based solutions is the Baltimore ceasefire.
Okay.
Right, Baltimore ceasefire. I mean, Baltimore ceasefire didn't start with lots of funding and recognition. It started with an idea, and then it followed that idea up with an action, and then people got on board, right? And consistency, and a continuous intentionality around getting community feedback. And using community spaces to gather people to provide that feedback. And then you see what happened. A movement was created. So it always starts with an idea.
Right. When you look at Baltimore, good, bad, gray areas, all that's going on, what is your prayer or hope for the city in terms of what your perspective is?
My hope is healing economically, right? That we have to stop defending and being overly dependent on philanthropic dollars, right? Government dollars. We always, we get money funneled into the city and people are fighting over that little bit of money, right? We've got to think outside of the box to look at different ways in which that we can solve some of the challenges that are facing this community. And Nika Namdi is an example of that, of Fight Blight, really looking at opportunities for solutions that come from the community. Right, so Dominic Nell and Be More Green and City Weeds, right? He is, in schools, doing youth programming around farming and food. right, for youth, right? And so, you know, I have been, you know, I play a small role with these people and just in terms of giving my feedback or my perspective, right? But we share it collectively. And so that's what the Living Well is about, is using the thought leadership of people like Bridal Pearson, who is a very, you know, Dr. Bridal Pearson, who is a sensei and who is a professor, and, you know, he operates, you know, he teaches a human services management program, you know, at University of Baltimore, and they partner with Coppin. So when you have these when you have these thought leaders working across, you know what I mean, across platforms with one another. So, you know, I don't care what type of business or initiative you have, you need to be able to tell that visual story. So when you have photographers on deck that can come out and tell the story, your visual story about your event, that's going to ultimately help you, and it ultimately helps to tell the story of the Living Well.
And in your own words or your own perspective, what can the Living Well do to change that narrative about Baltimore City, or help change that 30-second clip of a narrative that is always out there about this city?
Right. Well, we have to be our own change agents, right? We have to, you know, really look at challenges as opportunities and work close, right? And we have to support one another, right? And we have to create community to do that. And space is plays a pivotal role in doing those things.
Because it's almost that space, especially being welcoming and open, it gives voice and makes it comfortable for my voice to kind of be heard. And me being able to try things out and finding that voice. And
being free and being emancipated in that space is, I think, is very important, because a lot of times we go into spaces, but are we free? You know, are we free to speak our truth?
And it doesn't really make it.
Or you may not. It may not even be a espoused list of a printed list of rules, right? It's sometimes when you go in certain environments, you just know, right? And I think that that's what makes the Living Well very unique and different from other spaces that espouse the same kinds of things, right?
So what is the Living Well's mark on this city? Not necessarily your legacy, but what's your current mark on this city? You say healing a lot. You say a lot of things about community and connecting and just being a part of, but what's that mark?
We want to, well, let me just go back and back up. You know, I feel, and I want to just refer to the work of Dr. Julius Wilson that talks about what desegregation did to our communities, right? Desegregation didn't necessarily help our community. So how do we connect the community back together? How do we create programming or events, if you will, that families are welcome to attend? How often do you go somewhere and you can bring
whole family?
Right, you can bring your whole family, and it's a comfortable space and place for, and you know that they're welcome, that the family is welcome. That's one mark that we feel like it's important for us, right? Is that we provide family-centered services that keep our cultural art forms alive.
Now, what's your experience with segregation?
What's my experience with segregation? My personal experience with segregation?
I know, my mother told me never to ask somebody their age, so I asked that
my personal experience with segregation, I grew up as a military dependent. My father was career military, and we were stationed in the in New Mexico, and we came back to Baltimore, where my parents' family hail from, and then we moved to D.C. and then to Andrews Air Force Base, which was primarily a white community. I personally, going to a primarily white elementary school, was bused to black schools. So I came up in the busing era where the black, so for me, I had a out-group dynamic where I came to the black school with the white kids, right? And so I always
did work both ways.
Right, I had this duality, right, that I always had to maneuver. So, you know, coming to Baltimore and hanging out doing city life with my cousins in West Baltimore and then going back to the Lily White environment, right? And so I've always experienced that in-group, out-group dynamics. So my experience with segregation is really understanding that we have not been able to totally be free, you know, in our life space, right?
We always worried or uptight.
Yes, exactly. You know, we're always trying to fit in with white folks, or we're trying to get proximity to white folks, or, you know, we have what we call internalized racial oppression, right? And so, you know, for me, I wanted to create a space for people that look like us, that we could thrive,
and not be ashamed of that,
right? And also, and not have some of the maybe functional skills that's needed to have to get into the doors, such as the University of Maryland, or get you know, major funding from a federal, you know, or a state funding vehicle, to be able to support one another. You know, back in the day, you know, people didn't necessarily have jobs. If you were a painter, you painted. If you were a cobbler, you fixed it. You had a trade. There was something that you did. Our grandmothers did days work. Okay, there was something, was a service that you provided. And I think that it's important for us as a community to get back to the understanding that we have something to provide and something to give within our community with one another.
There are heated debates on segregation and being angry that it happened, or the desegregation, and being really angry. And I hear this from older people, the millennials, and everybody in between, and people starting to become aware of what that did to our community.
Absolutely.
We don't feel, you know, we have family members that we don't see anymore.
We don't feel connected.
Right. And
we used to live in the same community, so your grandmother and your aunt and your cousin
same house.
All lived not only sometimes in the same house, but they lived next door, across the street, around the corner, right? And so you didn't have the need for child care, like you know, because you just went over to, you know, Auntie such and such's house, or the cousins, or you know what I mean, or
go
whatever.
Over next door.
Exactly. And so we lost that in communities. So my hope for the Living Well, in which I think that it has come, it's been that place where you feel a sense of connection.
Right.
That you have some type of history with. There's a lot of people in the city that have an experience and a history of having an event, or attending an event, or some type of milestone celebration at the Living Well.
Could the Living Well become the family reunion space?
That's a great idea, right?
Because it welcomes you in, and that's something that I don't hear much about anymore. There's still families that keep that tradition going, and I always am so impressed by that. But for the larger majority of us, family reunions are funerals and weddings.
Space, though, for people to do it.
Right.
It costs.
Yeah.
It's expensive to rent space, right? And so we try to make sure that our space is competent in that it is accessible and that it's affordable. You know, our prices are typically under market, if you will, right? But I think that you get a lot for that under market price, right?
I mean, just feeling comfortable, because sometimes you book these venues and you don't feel comfortable.
Right.
And it really does speak to the owners and just the environment of the people who work there. Like, you should feel at home.
Right, and you're on the honor system when you're at the Living Well too.
Yeah.
You're the honor system. It's like, you know that this is your house. Like, we get back.
Make it do what it do. Do what you gotta do. But that's welcoming though, and that's stated on the website, and it's stated in your meeting when you initially meet with them. And I know that to be true. I've had many people who've rented that space or use the space, and that's their experience. And it really is. We don't have that really. Even with some of the black spaces, we don't have that, because people are about turning a profit and, you know, being the it thing, that we forget about community.
Well, how do we, let's talk about profit. What does profit look like? right? It's not so
It's
much,
subjective.
and I tell, we have an amazing new director of health and wellness. Her name is Tamika Gray, right? And so, you know, a lot of times when you're starting new, you're building a class or you're building a platform, and I say, you know, success is not always having 25, 45 people in your class. That's not success. If 3 people show up and you made a difference in those 3 people's lives, then you are successful. Right. That's what success looks like. We've got to remember that the Living Well is, we use a prosperity model, but also our model is also a social impact. So we have a double bottom line.
But that speaks to the longevity that you're building there. That's legacy building when you're thinking about how the community is affected by this building right here and these people in this building. That means you have an eyesight on legacy. And a lot of these spaces aren't looking at being there for their grandchildren and maybe your daughter taking it over, or so. We don't look at those things, and that.
Well, I don't. You know what? I think that although I'm the proprietor, I'm not so much the
owner. Right.
You know.
I mean, you know, tomato. but it's okay. It's okay. We live in a world now where it's not okay to take ownership of something because it feel like you're stealing something. But I like the balance that you're growing into because now we see you more and we will begin to see you more.
I'm going to be, what did you call me? I was a what?
The whiz.
The curtain. You told me I was. I'm coming from behind the curtain, folks.
She has been revealed. We have seen the whiz. It's not the whiz. But you are definitely who you say you are. And I like being able to meet people for the first time or second time. And you're authentically who you are. And that's something that I'm working on, my creative self, making sure I'm always the same person. You know, whether you like me or you don't, you can always say Nate is going to be Nate. And that's in my growth and my maturity. That's what I'm working on. I want you to give, we're about to close out the show, but I want you to give a last minute. Oh, we got one more break. So let's go to a quick commercial break, and then we will come back and we go plug that event. And then we go give the last question for the day. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here on the Artist Exchange Radio Show only on BigExposedRadio.com.
My name is Ruth Rusey. I'm a retired teacher. I'm 91 years old, and this is how I live United. I say retired, but not really. Once a week, I read books to children as part of United Way's education program. Reading to a child creates links between language and literacy. It creates a bond between grown-up and child. And believe it or not, it prepares them for a better academic future. Oh, we read about frogs and flies and pigs with wings, all sorts of juicy stuff. It's a joy to watch all those little faces. I figure I have the time and they have the need. And I've always believed that if we're not here to help each other, then what are we here for really? My name is Ruth Rusey. I help kids prepare to succeed in school. So I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer, live united. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
My name is Meera Batra. I have been in this country 32 years, and this is how I live united. America has always been the land of promise, and in my community, many families have come for a better life. Coming from another culture myself, I know the desire to become part of a community, to feel at home, and to gain the tools for our children and families to succeed. So I advocate for these families with United Way. United Way empowers them to look beyond their histories and to see what opportunities are available. We help them get involved with their kids' schools, network within the community, and when we do, we unite them. We make the community stronger. What I do is something I wish someone had done for me, and I am so grateful I am able to. My name is Meera Batra. I help families see opportunities and succeed. I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer, live united. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Keyboard Cat, Hamilton the Pug, and Toast Meets World. These are some of the internet's most beloved pets. With millions of YouTube views, shares, Instagram likes, followers, and fans across the globe, But what do all these amazing pets have in common? Their stories started in a shelter. Start your story. Adopt a dog or cat today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a shelter or adoptable pets near you. Training that pet to play the keyboard? Well, that's entirely up to you. Visit theshelterpetproject.org and hear more about Hamilton the Pug, Toast, and Keyboard Cat's amazing adoption stories. Start a story, adopt a shelter, or rescue pet today. Your perfect pet is just a click away at theshelterpetproject.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Maddie's Fund.
Whoa. The moment my son saw a redwood tree.
It's huge!
Is the moment I knew that for him,
You can't even see the top of that thing!
even the sky has no limit.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org. Learn about forests near you and discover cool things to do when you go. Your moment is out there. Find it at discovertheforest.org.
Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
You are now listening to Just a Bit Outside, the sports radio show at BeExposedRadio.com. Come join us every Monday night from 8 to 10 p.m. on YouTube, Facebook, or BeExposedRadio.com.
So we had a lot of things going on.
Mother's Day, Major League Baseball, pink bats, pink outfits.
Yeah. They certainly did the mothers good. They don't show them justice. Like Jimmy said, the pink bats, cleats, all types of pink highlights in the major leagues. The Orioles were swept by the Kansas City Royals.
Wah, wah.
The Kansas City Royals. Thank you, Eric. Kansas City Royals is they're like one of the worst teams in the major leagues
Baseball
right now. Yeah, so that was a little tough.
Yeah, so the Orioles no longer
For the home team.
have the top record. It belongs to the Washington Nationals now.
Yeah, so that was tough. So hopefully they'll get.
You are listening to BeExposedRadio.com.
There's a rumor going around that Tyler Perry and Oprah are beefing.
And trying to not prevent the hurdles. But when this happens, you should have this, or think of yourself, or look at yourself, or find who you are,
So
and
Oprah,
be who you are enough.
Bitch, if you don't
Right,
have
you know,
my
when I
money.
was 17, I was a wild child. I'm just, put that out there. I was a wild
She
child.
said Georgetown. That's all
I
I
was living out loud. I was doing my own thing on my own terms, and I don't regret any of it because it has made me who I am. Living out loud and not apologizing for it. I was glad that I didn't take the traditional route, as I was, where a lot of us are groomed to do. You go to high school and, go to college. I didn't. I got a job. When I was 17 years old back in the day, I was making $17,000 a year. I was a word processor. And I was like, go to college for what? I make my age in thousands.
And at that time, Georgetown was like a mini New York type of feel.
Yeah. So I used to live with my friend Rosario Castano, who, let me just say,
So she was international.
keep her in prayer. She was given 5 months to live, and it's a beautiful sister friend of mine. But anyway, we were living in Foggy Bottom on 23rd Street, right across from GW. And I remember we used to shop at the Watergate. That's where the Safeway was, and we didn't have money back in the day, so we paid our rent and our bills. But on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday night, the hotel, like Twigs and the Four Seasons, had happy hour where they had food. So all you needed was $4 to buy your drink, right?
And
Where you would just literally, sip on all night, and then you would have all your food. That's how we ate every Thursday and Friday
Maybe
night.
take some home.
Those were the days. And so, what would I say to my 17-year-old self? And I think, the biggest thing was that I always, lived with this duality of feeling like I disappointed my parents, or, I was supposed to be doing something different. And I would say to my 17-year-old self that you don't need to feel that. Like, being you is enough, right? The Living Well model is live well, be more, but that be more is not to be more than what yourself, right? It is to to live, it's about living in your higher self, right? When we live and we operate in our higher selves, we are very positive, we are open-minded, we are optimistic, and we are authentic, right? When we are operating in our lower selves, we're not really, operating with what we call Ubuntu, right? Ubuntu is about, understanding that I can celebrate you, and celebrating you does not diminish me. And so
that's a good so ultimately you are enough.
Yes.
Good, bad, or indifferent, you are enough. And that's a great message to go off with. So in closing, give us a plug for
I'll see you guys Sunday. We're going to begin at 12 o'clock with a drum call. We've got Sundiata, Spirulita Green on the 1s and 2s. We are going to be dancing and singing. Shauna Divine is going to be there. We got so many amazing vendors that are going to be in the house. We're going to be eating terra wraps with chipotle mayo, right? We're going to be doing some yoga. If you can get to the Living Well at 11:30 on Sunday at Handmade Holiday, Andrea Pite is going to be doing a free yoga session from 11:30 to 12:30. The event starts at 12 o'clock, 12 to 6 o'clock in the evening. 235 Holiday Street at the Living Well. We are in the Real News Network building right above Ida B's table. So please come out, bring the family. It is the first day before Kwanzaa, 2 days before Kwanzaa, and we are right before the Christmas holiday. If you celebrate, you don't have to celebrate anything specific except for yourself and community.
Family reunion.
Yes, exactly. Nate, I want to say thank you, and for your listeners for having me on. I hope to come back soon.
We're going to have the meeting. We're going to have the meeting.
What we can do here. And I want to do a shout out to the Living Well family and the Living Well community. And we look forward to seeing you. And we want to say thank you for all that you have done and sewed in to support the Living Well Center for Social and Economic Vibrancy.
And with that, that's been the Artist Exchange Radio Show. Up next, It Is What It Is Radio Show with Tyree and his ladies. Maybe a gentleman, I don't know. So definitely stay tuned, stay locked in for that. The Artist Exchange Radio Show every Monday and Friday, 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. Here live only on the Be Exposed Radio station. Bam, 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 bam.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
There's a rumor going around that Tyler Perry and Oprah are beefing. Well, let me tell you about this. Tyler, okay, told Oprah, bitch, if you don't have my money, we're going to have a problem. Ooh. Oprah said, what is the problem? Ooh. You said if I don't have your money, there was going to be a problem. So Oprah